So we wanted to do something really different for Pacific Explorer, and a rock show was something that we talked a lot about.
I've always felt with this rock show since the moment we sat down and first began tossing around the raw ideas that it would be a hit, it would be a favourite with many of the guests enjoying it.
I love that we're doing a rock show.
Let's face it, who hasn't played a bit of air guitar at some time?
It was a great chance to break out and, you know, live a little rock.
We locked ourselves away in a room with myself and the Grayboy team creatively for a day and just talked about what might be in that show.
I know in the first meeting we had, I considered it to be a little bit like, let's strap ourselves in and let's make this a fun rock ride. A little bit like Mad Max Fury Road. It doesn't need explanation. It just starts, it goes, and it ends.
We wanted to try and do more of a rock concert.
The choice to make it a rock concert was simple and very clear.
This show, we decided to actually not go down the track of a really big production cabaret style show. We wanted to make this feel like a rock concert.
And the last thing we wanted it to be was a tribute show. We created our own band, we've got a band, we've got 15 people on stage, and it's true performance. And I think that helps create the raw, genuine energy that is there for this show.
The choreography and the staging really had to fit with the direction that we were going with this show.
Thinking of a choreographer, I mean, William Forsyth was a pretty simple call. He's done music concerts, rock concerts, if you like.
He's worked with Cliff Richard, Marsha Hines, he did Long Way to the Top around Australia.
He gets that music, he understands how to make a rock singer look great.
That's his skill in creating that choreography that doesn't feel like it's a cruise ship show. It feels like a rock concert.
I instantly said yes to doing this show because the show super excited me because it was something quite different for a ship. I also really wanted to work with the team, being Philip, Scott, Gavin, Nigel and Amanda. Being in the studio with her again after all these years would be amazing. And I also knew that the show and the setup would be very slick and professional, which is how I like it.
I think William's choreography is hard-hitting, and I think with a rock show, you want it to be hard-hitting, and that's what William does. His choreography is so diverse in hitting things hard and, you know, getting low on the ground and just having that edge, and it needed an edge. William is the essence of rock for me. I think I couldn't imagine another choreographer punching out what he needed to punch out to make that show different.
We wanted it to look like a rock concert, not a cabaret show, so not a version of a rock show, the real deal.
Choosing the right music for this show was so important.
I suppose that the hard bit, if it was hard, was just eliminating so much great material.
We literally had a list a mile long of amazing rock songs.
When Grayboy pitched this show to me, they'd kind of fleshed out the show in terms of what songs they'd really like to hear.
The way that he's arranged that music to, again, feel like a concert, but just drive it, really drive from the opening. It just builds and builds and builds and builds to when at the end of the show you're just thinking, I don't want this to end.
There is no slow music in this show. The whole show really packs a punch. Like you sit there and from the minute that music comes on, the room is alive.
The show starts with Beds Are Burning by Midnight Oil, and that's as low energy as we go. I consider Beds Are Burning to be the ballad of the show, and it's not a ballad in any way. So we only amp up in tempo and in intensity.
The music for me goes through the roof. It actually was so easy to choreograph because it is everything I like in music.
We wanted to give the audience a show of songs that they all know and love.
Philip and I just seem to get each other. He understands all the accents I like.
We kind of don't need to do a hell of a lot of talking to reach our end point together because we're truly on the same page.
It was fantastic to have a live band on stage.
That first band rehearsal was truly electric. It was so exciting to hear finally what had been written on paper now suddenly come to life. And the band is spectacular.
So I think the costumes for rock needed to be glamorous because we're still on stage, but they had to be edgy and sexy.
We wanted him to design something that, again, didn't feel cabaret in any sense, but they still need to, we didn't want them to come out in black jeans and black t-shirts.
They hit the mark so well for me, and I feel probably more sexy than we've ever done for ships before, but really rock and really a little bit theatrical, which is what concerts are like these days, which is what we really wanted to capture, and he just captured that so well.
For the various looks, because I've never actually done a full-on rock concert version before, so for me to come up with 4 distinct looks for each section was a challenge in itself, that I had to try and come up with something that I'd never normally done.
I think he found a way to make the costumes really sexy, but also really slick, and it still feels like rock, but it's a rock show.
For me, it's the first time I've actually gone from start to finish. It's only about my second or third show where I've done the makeup and the hair, was to then research like different rock chick looks, and because especially for the girls, because they can really sell that show when they've got that full look, so they might be in something they wouldn't normally wear. But then suddenly you go, okay, now here's your makeup, here's your hairstyling and the back combing, and how they do it suddenly gives them this persona where they can then go on stage and own it as if they were in a full-on rock concert.
I think the diversity of the costumes, because we visited so many different bands and different eras of rock, he covered everything that he needed to, which was brilliant. He is brilliant.
To create the concert experience, we added additional lighting elements.
You want that big blinding light to hit you in the audience.
We really looked for effects that we could control, that were reliable and cutting edge, but had a rock element or a sort of a high energy element to them.
He, with Grayboy, suggested purchasing different sorts of lights which had never been used before on the ships, which really created that rock look and the look that Graham and I really wanted to achieve.
So this time round, we've got lights on the floor, we've got lights facing backwards, we've got lights from the ceiling, we've got lights facing into the audience and the roving ones that are on the stage.
Lighting never stands alone, and I never think lighting should stand alone from what the performers do. So yes, the music dictates sort of how fast the lighting needs to happen, but then you also have to light the dancers and the singers and then make the lighting work with what they're doing from a choreographic point of view.
Gavin and his genius brought so much energy, and every segment looked different, and it just kept building and building, which was Graham's initial vision, that it just, once it started, it just took off. So with everything that he brought, it just grew and grew and grew until we climaxed at the end of the show.
It is spectacular to watch. I think it's some of the best lighting I've ever seen on a Grayboy show.
I think for the rock show, Scott Ogier really tried to stay away from scenic like we have done in other shows.
Scott and I initially had a few ideas that we just kept bouncing off each other, but Scott then just ran with it, and it became something bigger than I thought. Not overpowering though, just enhancing everything in the show. And it's sometimes lifting it when there was only one performer on stage.
The Pacific Explorer's got, you know, the biggest LED screens out of all of the P&O ships, and that really brings this show to life.
And we had this one vision. The screens are really sexy and really energetic and very Mad Maxy, with lots of skulls and hearts and tattoos. I just love what was created in the end. It was amazing.
I think those dancers thrived off William and the rock show. I think they really found the passion for rock, which was great to see. It's great to watch performers not understand something and then develop to the end where they're just so into it. So it was a great experience.
The install in Singapore for the rock show went so smoothly. I was quite surprised because, as I said, I've been working for 27 years for Grayboy. It doesn't always go smoothly, but we were actually a little bit ahead of time. I think because everyone was so on top of their own area, and the cast was so committed to the show, and as I said earlier, they were so into the show. So all we had to do was bump it in and get it all gelling together, as opposed to working on each segment again and pulling it back up. It was quite amazing. So it went really well. I was really unstressed, and I was really happy with how it worked out.
William has this way of making performers want to dance it hard, which was amazing.
I'm really happy with the show. I think it's one of the most outstanding, very different feeling shows that Grayboy does. And by doing it with P&O, it really mixes up their entertainment menu for the passengers.
I think the audience aren't expecting it to be so authentic. I think the audience come in expecting it to be, you know, a nice, fun rock show, but very early on in the show, I think the audience actually sit there and go, wow, this is cool.
I love this show so much because I knew from the initial meeting with Graham that the Australian audience would just love it, and it was so what we love as Australians. And then seeing it come to life in front of me, every day I would think they're going to love this.
And it's quite amazing. So many people, even the younger audience members who come to see the show, they all comment on, oh my God, I can't believe I knew every song in that show. And it's because they're classics. Everyone knows them, and to hear the audience reaction is one of the most exciting things. So I feel proud.
To me, it's like a legendary rock concert. If you hadn't have known where you were going and what it was, you wouldn't expect it, but phenomenal. I think it's an amazing show.
Whatever night the rock show's on, everyone shows up, everyone rocks, and yeah, it's a blast.
I just think it's an amazing show, and I'm so proud to be part of it.
From the moment you sit and that first song comes on, you just enjoy the ride, and you just sit there, you don't have to think about it, you just enjoy the music and you just rock on.